Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you joining me here for another week. Before I get into today's topic, I just want to ask you the few favors that I do every single week. Number one, whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on, please make sure you're subscribed. The audio version of the podcast will always go up first, so if you want to be one of the first to listen to the new episodes as they come up each week, make sure you're subscribed on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you're finding this podcast. Jump on there, hit the subscribe button, and that also helps us grow and get out to more people. You can find the video version of the podcast, goes up every Wednesday on our YouTube and on our Facebook pages. You can just search the Unstoppable Dad Project on both those platforms and find it there, and follow us on the socials, so at the Unstoppable Dad on Instagram and the Unstoppable Dad Project on Facebook. And as always, if you get some value out of this episode or any of the other episodes that I've done and the topics that I'm covering off, please make sure you share it around with anybody who you think might get some value out of it also. By you doing those few little tiny things for me, you will be able to help me continue to grow this podcast and hopefully get it into the hands of more people who get some value from it just like you. So, this week, I want to cover off why I love having a home gym. Now, if you've watched the video version of the podcast, if you've seen the clips on social media, you obviously know that I record this podcast from my home gym / home office. And I just love having a home gym. After we went through the process of moving on from owning our own gym, having a home gym has actually been quite a lifesaver for me, for my mental state. Obviously, training is a very big part of my life. It has been since I was about 15. So it's 20 plus years, 25, 26 years, just racking my brain for my age there, of being really consistent with training, and training aiding me in sporting endeavors, training aiding me in being what I perceive as being a better father, at times being a better employee, being a better business owner, and just all round helping me be more effective in life. And having the home gym set up has really been a lifesaver for me. Now, about 12 months ago, I actually did a episode on the home gym, and if you're looking to train from home, some things you need to be aware of. And I'll probably revisit a lot of those points on the episode today, but I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle. And the reason being is I get phone calls or I get inquiries at least from one person a month who has their own home gym set up and just doesn't use it. They struggle to, either the words that they use sometimes is they struggle to get motivated to actually do the work from home, the workout from home. They struggle to build consistency while they're doing it. They'll do it in spits and spurts. So every week or so they might do a workout, or then it turns into every 2 weeks, but they're not able to actually build consistency with what they have at home. And they just struggle. They've invested this money into the gym. Sometimes people to the extent of like what I've got. Sometimes it's just I've got a couple of pairs of dumbbells and a couple of kettlebells, and they just sit there and they gather dust, and I do nothing with them. And the big thing is sometimes it is about how you frame the opportunity to do that in your mind. For every pro, there is a con to having the home gym at home. Now, the very first thing I'm going to say is some people need to remove themselves from their home environment for that time to train because it's their time to do it. And this episode may not necessarily be targeted at you. Some people aren't sure whether they are or they aren't that person, but there are quite a lot of people who they can't train at home. One, because there is an element where they're telling themselves they can't, and I'm not going to go into that today, but however you position it in your mind sometimes is how it's going to come off to yourself, and that can be a massive mental roadblock in actually building consistency. But some of the things that I know come up in the way, like they're not actually getting their own time. They have the kids coming out to them, disturbing them. They're just not able to get like a consistent 45 minutes to an hour to actually train in their gym. That can be one. Number two, maybe they work from home. So their workspace then becomes their training space. And therefore, that makes the training that they do not actually time for themselves. And for a lot of dads, a lot of parents, a lot of busy people that I work with, having that time for yourself where you're actually able to mentally disengage from the things that are concerning you or that you've got to deal with for the day is a really important element to it. So if you work from home, sometimes it is hard to do that because you're constantly reminded of the things that you are not doing, what you are taking that time out from in order to go and train. And then also that leads into not being able to get away and have that time for yourself. So there's some of the cons about having your own space to train. There is obviously the costs involved with setting it up. And for some people, depending on where they live, it's also the space that they have to actually set it up. I'm very lucky here, the way we've set it up. We've got enough space where I can set up a decent amount. Obviously, I do a few in-person PTs and mobility screens and things like that. So there's a financial benefit for us to actually having it there, and not everybody's going to have that. So I completely understand, after having many, many conversations with people that have the gym set up, that there are going to be circumstances where it's not going to be ideal. But what I want to focus on is, for me, why I see it as ideal for me, and quite frankly, for a lot of people. And it's for a lot of people who may already have it set up. And what really needs to happen is they just need to kind of flick the switch and almost be, this might sound a little bit harsh the way I'm saying this, almost be grateful that they have it there and they don't have to actually go anywhere to train. And that's like one of the biggest reasons why I love it, is it cuts down on travel time. Let's say, for example, the closest gym to where we live is about a 10-minute drive away. So if I was to drive there, I was to train, and then I was to drive home, the training session is going to take me potentially the same amount of time, maybe a little bit longer if I was to go to the gym, because I've got to wait for equipment, things like that. But there's a minimum of 20 minutes I have claimed back in my day. Now, that 20 minutes can then be used to work on my business, to spend more time with the kids. Like, there is a big time element when you only have to go out to the garage or the shed or the balcony, wherever you have your stuff set up, to get it done. And because of that, that is time you can claim back. So people who are time poor, who struggle to quote unquote find the time to train, having a home gym setup can be something where it really cuts down on that time. Because then when we say you only have to find, say, 3 hours a week to do 3 sessions, you truly only have to do 3 hours a week, because you already you don't actually have to travel to where you need to go to train. And then on top of that, as I said, there is an element where, yes, at a gym, you are generally going to have access to more equipment. But the last point I'm going to make on this podcast is about having a coach to help you maximize the equipment you've got. But if you're at a gym, you may have to wait for the equipment depending on what time you're training. If it's a peak time, you may not actually be able to do the exercises just because of the dynamic of what happens at a commercial gym or at another gym. So that's a time element that you can claim back there too. And because you're training by yourself, yes, there is a potential motivation thing there, but that's where we want to rely on discipline. We want to really fall back on that. I just need to do it, rather than get in my own head about all the things that are potentially going wrong here. The other thing is too, and this is something that I've found with the people I coach more than myself, but it actually makes it easier to split your sessions up and do multiple sessions per day or more sessions per week because of that element of being able to claim time back. Now, one of my clients was struggling to get his sessions done. Now, they weren't long sessions. We were working for about 40 minutes, and we were trying to do 3 sessions a week. And there was a bit of a mental roadblock that we needed to work through firstly, but secondly, in his mind, like allocating that time was getting a struggle. Very busy guy, very successful guy, really struggling to get this time for himself between family commitments and work commitments and everything he's got going on. So what we actually did is we split it up to 20-minute sessions every single day. And as a result, he's been able to start to build that consistency over the short term, and hopefully that's going to transition into the long term. But the reason he can do that is because he has his own home gym set up. He has a space for himself to train at home. So therefore, when he gets up and his feet hit the floor, he can then just go out and he can just get to work on those short sessions. The other thing that I've seen a lot of my clients do when they have their own space set up is they're able to, we might do a 40-minute session with 2 elements in it, and they might do half in the morning and half in the afternoon, just because that's what their timetable dictates. So that is one big thing that I have seen with the people that I work with. I have done it a few times. It's not something that's been front of mind to me. I kind of like to get it done first up. I'm a big advocate for training in the morning. Haven't always been, but I do most of my training in the morning because I can get it done and nothing can get in the road of it at that point. But I've got quite a few clients that I'm working with who have home gym setups. It allows them the flexibility to do that, because you can't do that at a regular commercial gym, because firstly, let's say, for example, you're living in the proximity that I am to a commercial gym. That's all of a sudden 40 minutes of travel time if you've got to split it into 2. And what's going to happen with that is you're not going to get that second part done. Or if you're splitting it up over the course of the week, you're not going to be able to, you're adding it essentially to do 20 minutes of work. You're adding another 20 minutes of travel, and that's going to start to eat away at the time for the other things that you need to do. So convenience is a big thing for me, like having the access to literally just walk out, do what I need to do, not have to travel anywhere. That's a massive, massive thing. The other thing is, and this is for me, and this is something that gets highlighted all the time, it's the example that I'm setting. My kids get to see me working out. They get to join in. Now, this can be a pro and a con. Okay, for me, I actually love that element. I love the fact that this is something that my kids are growing up around, and whether we had the gym or not, that would always be something that they had exposure to because it's important to me. But the fact that they have daily exposure to it from what we have set up is a big important thing to me, because it helps me set the example for them on allocating time for themselves to do things for themselves. Now, they know there's going to be times where I'm locked away out here for an hour because I need my time away. And that's just about communication with them and saying, hey guys, now's not a time where we're going to train together. Dad just needs his time. I just need you guys to leave me be for an hour, and then we can have a play afterwards. And then there'll be other times where, yep, you guys are good to be out here. We just need to make sure we're safe. And you guys, and they will just mirror me. They will mirror what I'm doing. And to me, that's a very cool thing, because it's helping me set the example for them to hopefully show that they can be physically capable and they can spend that time for themselves, working on themselves, and not have to be apologetic for it. And so for me, like probably the biggest thing outside of the convenience and outside of everything else that I love, especially as my kids get older, is that the example that it's setting and the exposure that it's giving to them, and the fact that they will grow up hopefully knowing that this is just a normal part of life. Physically looking after yourself and lifting weights and wanting to be strong and wanting to be physically capable is something that is normal, because I think that there are a lot of environments where that is not normal. And for us in our household, that is the example that I want to set. And having our home gym set up and them seeing me use it and seeing me apply my own fitness to different things I want to do is a very cool thing for me. That is one of the biggest reasons why I love having it. Now, I understand and I appreciate, obviously, I'm in a very privileged position. I've been able to set this up as a byproduct of having the gym. And not everybody needs to invest as much money into their home gym as what we do. You can set up a home gym for as simply as buying yourself a pair of dumbbells and a pair of kettlebells. And for me, the one thing that I have seen, anybody that has a home gym set up, unless you are, there is one type of person who will just use it no matter what. Okay, because they are there. There is another type of person that needs a little bit of accountability, because you lose that because it is your space and you are only training for yourself. So you're not actually going to see somebody. You're not actually going to an external place. And as a result, that you can lose a little bit of an accountability factor with it. Which is why I think if you can, at a minimum, have a program that you follow where you are reporting to somebody on what you're doing, that is probably the number one way you are going to maximize the investment that you have made in your home gym. Because there are a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years that have their home gym set up and don't use them. And the biggest thing, once we drill down to it, that they are missing is that accountability and direction. Because if you buy a generic program that is designed for somebody who is using a standard commercial gym, then there are going to be exercises that you are going to have to modify. There are going to be pieces of equipment that you are potentially going to have to sub out. And if you don't have that knowledge and that know-how from experience, that can become, for a lot of people, a task too far. So by looking at investing in a coach to help you utilize the investment you've made in the home gym, they can help you write a tailored program to maximize your time and maximize the equipment that you have access to. And what that means is you are able to build consistency and you're able to see the results that you want. And that is the number one thing that I think is going to keep you using your home gym, is really knowing that you're using it, one, but also seeing some results from using it is the second thing. So the number one piece of advice I would give everybody, if you have a home gym, doesn't matter what it looks like, it doesn't have to be high cost. Get somebody to hold you accountable from what you're doing. Doesn't have to be a PT that comes to you. There are plenty of people, myself included, doing a little bit of a sales pitch here, where I can help write you a program for what you have access to. And to dovetail in to the end of that, if you're looking to invest in a home gym, you probably don't need to invest as much money as you think you do on the upfront. You can add little bits of equipment as you go through and as you build that consistency. And I have worked with a lot of people that have just started off with a pair of dumbbells and a kettlebell, and they've just added pieces of equipment as they've become more proficient at the movements that they're doing. But if you get a pair of dumbbells and you get a kettlebell, or even a couple of pairs of dumbbells and, a couple of kettlebells, there are a lot of things you can do with that. You don't need a squat rack to begin with. You don't need a barbell. In fact, I've got a lot of people that don't ever get to that point. So if you want some help, if you've got a home gym or you're looking to build one out and you want some direction on what your next step should be, or you want some help with accountability and you want some direction on exercises you should be doing, there is a link in the show notes where you can book in a time to chat to me. And what we will do on the call is I will ask you a whole bunch of questions and we will go through a plan to hopefully get you more consistent with your training and get you the results that you're looking for based off the equipment and the time that you have. So if you need some help, please reach out. This is 100% my wheelhouse. So I am here to lend my expertise and my advice to you based off that. But those are the reasons why I love having a home gym. Number one is convenience. It cuts down on so much travel time. It allows a whole bunch more flexibility from the point of view of how you can position your training times over the week to get the most out of your training volume. And the number two thing is the example that it sets and the things that your kids see and the fact that it just becomes a normal part of their life. They are the two biggest reasons why I love having my home gym. There can obviously be some cons to every pro that is there, and training at home is not going to be for everybody. So sometimes it's about working out what's going to work for you and your life. And that is it for this week. If you have any questions or you would like to have a chat to me about what the next steps could be for you and training at home, book in a time on the call below or send us a message on the socials. So have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.